pick up on that top story, the ANC top 6 nominations. This is the information that has come from the branches. I'm joined now by Prof JJ Tabane, political analyst, of course, anchor of Power to Truth. So, JJ, quite an interesting list, but let's look at the top 2 because it's President Ramaphosa, Sally Burdett. They've both got a cloud over their heads, pala, digital vibes, and the similarities are weird in the sense that neither has been charged, so there's nothing currently stopping them from standing. Do you think that could change?
Lowest common denominator situation here. That's what we really have got, because as they say, a day is a very long time in politics. Nothing stops, you know, if you like, a social engineering of some sort on both sides. One, the ones who don't want Ramaphosa out, they are hoping that the 6th of December will rescue them. In that if Parliament, for some reason, and I doubt they will get to that decision, but if they do get to the decision and says, we've got a case to answer, we're starting the impeachment process, that may be enough to say Ramaphosa must not try and stand in December. But we have seen that the ANC delegates operate completely differently. We've seen in KZN where they nominated people. We've seen in Mpumalanga where somebody is charged with murder, they still nominate them, and in fact those people win, you know. So there is a pushback on this renewal in that regard. So therefore you can't take anything for granted. Same with Zweli Mkhize. Zweli Mkhize, I think if anything there's enough to charge him, he can go and defend himself in front, but the reality is he can be charged before the end of December. It's just that if that happens, that creates another conflict that says, state institutions are being used, why the timing, the same thing, it's the same movie. Remember with the Zuma, they had to have the discussion, do we charge him before the conference, do we charge him after the conference? So Ramaphosa could be lucky not to be charged, but come February he's charged. And that would mean that whoever is a deputy, in this case Paul Mashatile, is in pole position. And I suspect that that's what the people who are supporting Paul Mashatile in these numbers are hoping. Are hoping that actually is just a heartbeat away from these two who have a cloud.
As it stands, if all things being equal, no sudden charges against either of the top 2 candidates. President Ramaphosa looks like a shoe-in to take this position again. 2,037 branch nominations versus Sally Burdet's 916.
More than a shoe-in. I think the city press described it as he's miles ahead. And these numbers, you know, in a sense confirm that. So the only thing is extra factors or extraordinary factors, that such as he's charged suddenly or Parliament says something dramatic. The opposition parties and those who are against Ramaphosa are hoping that the 6th is going to rescue them. This is the only thing they've got now. Otherwise, Ramaphosa is gone. And the Pala may catch up with him later, which essentially would mean that Paul Mashatile will step into that role should he be elected deputy.
It's problematic, this list, in terms of gender representation. Only 2 women nominees out of 16 candidates in total. And also, surprisingly, just those 2 women nominated deputy SG position, which is Jesse Duarte's old position, Nomvula Mokonyane, miles ahead, Phoebe Potgieter. Let's just look at the numbers. I don't have the numbers. Big gap. But also no sign of Lindiwe Sisulu, no sign of Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Why didn't they even get a nod?
You see, you need to distinguish between having a constituency and real support and making a lot of noise about all kinds of things, and also what we call political alignment. Lindiwe Sisulu do not align with anybody, right? In terms, even the arity of forces don't consider her their candidate, right? She decided to go on if there's a phrase you can use, on a frolic of her own, you know, attacking everything and everybody, you know, undermining the president and so on, and hoping that would sort of put her in good stead. Unfortunately, that didn't work out clearly. And please, this thing about the nomination from a floor is all a big myth, right? Unless the 2 are disqualified, and obviously there'll have to be a nomination from a floor because everybody would be there. But, you know, you'd have to go past Paul Mashatile first in order to actually be nominated president if for some reason the 2 are disqualified.
Talk to me about nominations from the floor. What actually is that process? How does it work? Because the branches have spoken. So who's going to, how do you suddenly get a new person, a new name popping up during the conference? That's
in terms of the constitution, the nomination has to be open on the floor, right? After everybody who has been nominated beforehand, like it has happened now, is accepted, there must be an opportunity to say nomination from the floor. And you need to be able to garner 25% of the vote from the floor for your name to be on the ballot. So if you can't garner 25 before, you are only just hoping for manna from heaven to garner it there, right? And this has always been linked to the issue of vote buying. You say a delegate leaves Free State, his branch has said Didi Mabuza must be the president, but when between Bloemfontein and Nasrec, between there and the Caucasus and the hotel hangout and Bryce, before that voting day, a delegate is alone in the booth. They can change their vote. So that's what people are hoping for in terms of the floor, to say it doesn't matter what the branches have said. At the end, you can influence the delegates, and the delegates must be able to persuade each other to say this is where to go instead of what your branches said.
The ANC saying today that the slates have been done away with, and they've now eliminated the possibility of vote buying. Do you think that they have?
Because it's under the DA, I wouldn't say it's a blue lie, I say it's a green lie. Okay? There's nothing of that nature. All you have to do is to read Kgalema Motlante's report in Polokwane, and then 10 years later, read what is called a diagnostic report of Gwede Mantashe, and tell me whether the distance between Polokwane and Nasrec, which was 10 full years, can now be decimated between Nasrec and another Nasrec, which is a short 5 years.
But since that time,
the truth is no, right? Because nobody's standing on the podium and saying, I'm buying the vote. It all happens underground.
Where's the money coming from? Because we know that there's been a big clampdown on corruption. The ANC is saying absolutely no corruption. And the ANC also doesn't have much money. So where's the money coming from?
Come on, Sally.
Am I being naive?
I don't want to use
Break it down for me.
I can't use such a word for a colleague. So the issue is... No, here's the issue. There's money is coming from multiple sources, okay? And I want anybody to go and prove me wrong. When the next Auditor General report comes, you will see that there have been an intensification of procurement from certain municipalities and so on in this year and in next year was the election, right? What does that mean? It means that deployed cadres are now asked to say they must be useful now. They are in charge of municipalities, they're in charge of certain agencies, government, parastatals, and so on. And money will be funneled through those channels, right? The battle for Johannesburg, for example, is not innocent. I mean, anybody must tell me it's innocent. It's not innocent. That's a 50-odd billion pot that the ANC needs for 2024, because they have already told us and showed us they are broke, can't pay staff, they can't survive, they want to sell buildings, they want to do all sorts of things. So the stealing is part of the mix. So that pot of money comes from all over. Private sector who want to buy loyalties. Don't think that these declarations to the IEC is all that parties are getting. That is not true, right? That's all they want to declare. But there's lots they don't declare, and we will find out. The same way we found out about Palapal. You think the Palapal is the only scandal about money? It's not the case. Secondly, this claim that other candidates are just praying and drinking water instead of using resources. Remember, when you campaign, you got to buy T-shirts, buy buses or hire buses to rallies, feed the people who come to meetings, to caucus and so on, feed people who come to rallies. You can't do that without money,
I want to ask you, maybe it's a bit of a left of centre. When I looked at the numbers, and I just thought, why do we even need a conference? Because it's quite clear what the branches feel. Why not just do a whole sort of online voting system? No,
they will not like that, because if they can crook an actual system where people are counting. Remember, the last time, the non-vulars of this world had to go and count and stand like this over the electoral committee and come and report to count one by one. I've seen this. It's not even new. Even in our student days, if you suggest an electronic system, people used to panic. They want to actually see the ballots and count them one by one, because there's so much corruption happening. People who are counting or people who are technocrats are going to be bribed. It's a mess. So you rather at least have a feeling that at least you can count these papers one by one, and if there's a problem, they can be all recounted there with everybody watching.
What's on your show tonight?
We're following up yesterday's discussion also with Solima Pailo and Mr. Cross from IRR, Solima Pailo from SACP, Mr. Cross from Institute of Race Relations. We're talking about the implications of the judicial judgments of yesterday, both the Zuma judgment, Zuma go back to jail judgment, and get out of jail card for Walus. What does it do for race relations in South Africa? Should we take it serious, or, you know, Panyaza Lesufi saying, let's go to war. With whom? How? Why are you mobilizing people that way? We'll be debating those. We did invite Panyaza, but he couldn't come back. I think he's very busy. Maybe buying helicopters to fight crime in Johannesburg. So he won't make it tonight. But that's what we're talking about tonight.
I look forward to that. Thank you so much, Professor JJ Tabane, political analyst, anchor of Power to Truth. And of course, you'll see him on your screens again at 8 o'clock.